Hello there. Does materialism and being materialistic really deliver the kind of happiness or enrichment or meaning that people often seek in life? And I'm not convinced that it does. And there's quite a bit of evidence that I want to share with you in this video that tends to support that. So there's a lot of experts believe that there is a global epidemic of the miserably successful. And our misery is often self-imposed. And this video is going to be focusing upon materialism. Let's just link these kind of concepts. We're going to be working to this model: materialism, incongruence between purpose and actions, stress, which is the kind of explosion fueled by business demands, personality, resilience, emptiness, in spite of the outward trappings of success, feeling hollow inside, righteousness, making judgments, feeling superior, and yeti, one's abominable snowman, the self-talk of defeatism. One problem with being purely materialistic as your focus is that it deprives you of the ability to evolve. You construct and configure reality in such a way that it makes you believe that it's the only way to be. It takes away a wider sense of perception and exploration. And many come to believe that the main gauge of success is through materialistic gains. Materialism, it is very reassuring. You have a great salary, a beautiful home, all the things that perhaps advertising tells you that a successful person should have. So your ability to change becomes inhibited. You're no longer able to move in uncertainty. Everything becomes repetitive, a habit, and you only develop limited skills to reinforce the current status that's making you feel safe. Change instead requires courage, trust, the development of flexibility, insight, actively seeking alternatives to what we are told via many aspects of modern society. And you start to feel comfortable without knowing that, the final destination sometimes, with a newly developed sense that you're on the right track. The key issue that slows the transition from a materialistic society and a profoundly fulfilling, meaningful life is that materialism creates sort of scared human beings often, who gradually lose their survival instinct, and that they end up accommodating themselves with an easier routine, and they don't need to question anything. Though many find it, challenging, and also it enslaves many of us in various ways. The musician Sheryl Crow once said, that feeling of freedom, open highways of possibilities, has kind of been lost to materialism and marketing. So taking away materialism helps us develop some free will and makes our lives what we really want them to be, and potentially free of those trappings. The non-materialist path instead goes towards experimentation and change, towards new horizons. And at an organizational level, it's innovation that moves you to develop, even if you're very attached to the certainties of today. That we can all recognize, it can be useful, and it is important to have something tangible in aspects of our life. Okay, I'm not taking away from that wholly, but it's important to develop the skills that lead you to conceive your life made up of both values, intangibles, and materialistic tangibles. I mean, one example might be, a deeply spiritual individual who lives with nothing material at all. One potential problem with that way of being is if people surround themselves with mainly other spiritual individuals, and to never, then be able to impact the wider society or know anything different. Hence the need to have more challenging interactions, to cross divides and to challenge each other. And this is where evolution happens. It's not necessary to go from materialism to complete asceticism. The pleasure of buying something we like is fine, but we should ideally purchase because it's a conscious choice and a sincere pleasure that we really live and fully enjoy, not because it demonstrates status for its own sake, for example. The transition from materialism is one when, when you evolve from materialism, you have to step out of the materialistic dimension. And this sometimes seems to require some kind of sacrifice. The evolutionary change requires effort, giving up something, sometimes accepting that the people around you may not understand you. Very often the suffering is due to how attached we are to our sort of former materialistic identity, that the way you live becomes your skin, so to speak. It's necessary to evolve and to commit. What's a big form of letting go? The transition can start by listing your qualities, your real values, your strengths. All of these things are attributes you may not always recognize in yourself, or you may not celebrate them as much as perhaps you should. Suffering is not so much linked to uncertainty. Suffering is not really about not having enough money to live. Most of us do not really need more. We already have enough to live. Instead, the true suffering is the emptiness. It's the lack of substance, a lack of deeper meaning. So what are some ways to progress from materialism to a balanced life? The fundamental key performance indicator is your level of happiness, your level of physical and emotional well-being, having a sense of meaning, having a sense of satisfaction with your existence. And congruence, a term often confused with but different from coherence. We constantly evolve, and so does what surrounds us. Our coherence changes accordingly, but congruence refers to us knowing, what am I doing? How does this make me feel? Am I living in a meaningful way and according to my values? And if so, that's congruence. It tells you at any given time if you feel well or bad, and for what reason. From congruence comes, the trust that what you do and what you are doing is right, even if you've not yet necessarily achieved measurable results. The problem is that materialism gives you immediate proof. And proof is very important for human beings. It often validates what we do and what we think. Thus, the first steps, the first mile is important. You reach that first mile and you can start to say, I'm living well. And I've also obtained my initial goals with my new lifestyles. Getting those kind of first success points shows you that you're not alone, and that others support you and your new way of being. How can you reduce the hold of materialism? And I think there are some pretty simple steps to reduce the hold that materialism tends to have upon us. Firstly, you assess which of the kind of nice things own you and which are nice things that you own. Keep the ones you own and consider, trading, giving, selling the others. I know there's a big current trend to declutter. According to Marie Kondo's notion of letting go of the things that you do not love and derive joy from. What I'm saying here is not too dissimilar. Think about what serves you, what brings you meaning and joy. And by the way, a million Marie Kondos could not make me get rid of my mountains of books. They bring me joy. But secondly, examine. And this might be more difficult, whose story or rules are playing in your mind when you assign value to something. Perhaps you love something because you or someone else believes it to be a status symbol, rather than it contributing meaning or genuine joy to your existence, or a specific painting, which you never really liked, but bought anyway. Thirdly, imagine if you had a financial overhaul. What would you need to be comfortable? Not to survive. You've worked too hard for too long, but to live with enough and a little more. Perhaps use that to determine what else can be done to simplify your life. From that position, you get to start valuing other aspects of life and experience that bring you increased joy and fulfillment and benefit. I think a lot of people have recognized, during the pandemic lockdown, the importance of different aspects of their life. And we have the time that we have, so we can take our time to do this. The problem with so many people are agendas and perceptions of what a good agenda looks like. You see a full agenda in your day, and perhaps think that this makes you a successful person with a full life. But perhaps wisdom and insight thrive and expand when you move away from materialism, and that it grows in a different space. Changing your behaviors and your habits may help, but perhaps this is not the full answer. Doing actions connect with your hardware. You also need to connect with your software, creating room for and space for creativity and insight and revelation. Being creative, expressing yourself, reading and exploring and doing things that you really want to do. Leisure derives from the Latin word otium. It's the empty space between inhaling, receiving, and exhaling, the action. So you want to find the right cycle for you to stay in between those kind of two places. The more you can stay in a place of leisure, for example, the easier it is for you to see what you really need and what it is you need to do next, what your next congruent step should be. And you find answers when you give your brain and mind enough space to create them. And this function gets inhibited, when we insist upon a jam-packed, materialism-driven life, and trying to convince ourselves of happiness. So instead of being busy, perhaps you and perhaps your business, your team, whatever, should sit down, lay on the sofa every now and then, read a book, sit in the sunshine, and walk somewhere beautiful, whatever that is for you. To allow ourselves to let go, to go to a space that develops the ability for us to receive. It's a reconnection, perhaps, with a spiritual essence. Whatever that may be for you, and we need to express it with attitudes and behaviors, as well as talking about it. We need to replace words with actions, with a visible transition. And that is, move to seeing materialism as fundamental, but not necessarily the main source. Rehabilitate the ability to value one's life, to materialize it. The materialization of our own unique brand of spirituality, for example, is necessary. Whatever that means to you personally, my meaning will be very different to yours, I guess. If anything, it appears that there's a relationship between non-materialism and well-being. While processing wealth and material goods doesn't lead to happiness, giving them away actually does. Generosity is strongly associated with well-being. Studies of people who practice volunteering have shown that they have better psychological and mental health and increased longevity. The benefits of volunteering, for example, have been found to be greater than taking up exercise or attending religious services. In fact, even greater than giving up smoking. And it pains me to say that. Another study found that when people were given a sum of money, they gained more well-being if they spent it on other people or gave it away rather than spending it on themselves. This sense of well-being is more than just feeling good about ourselves. It comes from a powerful sense of connection to others, an empathic and compassionate transcendence of separateness and of our own self-centeredness. So if you really want to enhance your well-being, and as long as your basic material needs are satisfied, I think, it's wise not to try to exclusively accumulate money in your bank account necessarily. And don't just treat yourself to material goods that you don't really need. Be more generous and altruistic as well. Increase the amount of money that perhaps, you're giving to people in need, or give more of your time or resources, whatever they may be, to volunteering, or spending more time with helping other people, or behaving more kindly to everyone around you. You want to kind of shed the happiness means consumption messages that we're bombarded with by media. A lifestyle of generosity and underconsumption may not suit the needs of some economists and politicians, but it will certainly make you happier, according to the research. In particular, this is supported by a recent piece of research conducted at Baylor University entitled "Why Are Materialists Less Happy? The Role of Gratitude and Need in the Relationship Between Materialism and Life Satisfaction." It's by Tsang and colleagues, published in the Journal of Individual Differences. And it suggests that if you're a materialistic person, you're more likely to also be depressed and unsatisfied with your life. The study highlights something that I see within my therapy consulting rooms a great deal, that there's often a gap, a chasm that exists between where we are and where we want to be. The gap creates dissatisfaction in many people. The idea presented in this particular research paper is that by continuing to focus on what you want, you are inherently aware of what you don't have, which in turn makes it harder for you to appreciate and be satisfied with what you do already have. Which strikes me as a real shame. One of the findings of the research, therefore, was that a person who is more materialistic experienced less gratitude and subsequently was more dissatisfied with life. Psychology research tends to suggest that gratitude plays an important part in our lives and it contributes to our levels of satisfaction. You can go and research gratitude for yourself. Go to PubMed +1, even search in Google Scholar, and you'll find a huge amount of good quality research to support gratitude. So the notion of gratitude then, it's a real evidence-based one, and I know that some might not have thought so. One of the authors of the study that I was talking about earlier is a man called James Roberts, and he stated that our ability to adapt to new situations may help explain why more stuff doesn't make us any happier. As we amass more and more possessions, we don't get any happier. We simply, raise our reference point. That new 2,500 square foot home becomes the baseline for your desires for a bigger house. And this is referred to as the treadmill of consumption. We continue to purchase more and more stuff, but we don't get any closer to happiness. We simply speed up the treadmill. The authors, go on to quote the Greek philosopher Epicurus by saying, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you have now was once among the things you only hoped for." I love that. And anyone who derives pleasure from hardcore shopping should have this quote sewn inside of their wallet or their purse. So gratitude is an antidote to this. Let me put things into some context and perspective here first. So I'm hoping to get the point across that the success is not only about achieving results, it's also about learning from setbacks and striving for ongoing development and progress. It's often about taking what you have currently, what you've created for yourself, what you've been given, and making the most of it. A good result, is all about living up to your capabilities. Sometimes it's about having an idea or strategy and then finding a way to make it real and bringing it to life. Often we look at the hard skills needed to get good results, and I write about that and speak upon these kind of subjects with both my clients, with my mentorees, my students. Yet your emotional state, it's just as important, of course. Positive psychology, it's an academic field that studies happiness. And according to positive psychologists Ken Sheldon and Sonia Lubomirsky, current research suggests that up to 40% of your happiness comes from activities that you actually choose to do, sort of echoing some of my earlier themes. When you're happier, you perform better in virtually all aspects of your life. Okay, seems obvious. Your relationships are usually strengthened as a result. But according to a study in the Journal of Theoretical Social Psychology, feeling grateful towards your partner and vice versa can improve numerous aspects of your relationship, including feelings of connectedness and overall satisfaction as a couple. In the search for uncovering the secret to happiness, positive psychology keeps returning to one particular concept, that of gratitude. In multiple studies, researchers have found that if people are purposefully engaged in expressing gratitude, they're more likely to become happier. Gratitude's a feeling. It's an emotion that we choose to have based on our willingness to appreciate the good that's all around us. So first of all, I'm speaking about expressing gratitude to others, and then I'll move on to the more popular notions of expressing gratitude for what we have in our own lives. Kind of self expression of gratitude. Research by Adam Grant at the Harvard Business School and the Wharton School suggests that saying thank you goes beyond good manners. It also serves to build and maintain social relationships. Receiving expressions of gratitude makes us feel a heightened sense of self-worth, and then in turn it triggers other helpful behaviours in the person that we're helping as well as others. The research has shown that the practice of gratitude helps us cope better with stress. It improves our health and it increases positive feelings such as hope and peace. And we can also use gratitude's power to help us through tough times. Incredible things happen when we use the phrase thank you, and especially when it's used meaningfully. So just as an act of kindness can make both receiver and giver feel great, so does expressing gratitude. We give the best of ourselves when we're thankful. How can we express gratitude and increase our happiness? So initially keep it simple. Instead of thinking about how best to express your thanks, say it. Tell the person thank you. Let people know, I appreciate that. And let that be the end of it sometimes. Gratitude is something that can easily be expressed as long as it's genuine. Expressing gratitude is as important as anything else in your relationships, because it builds trust and respect. You might consider writing a letter, or writing something on social media to someone. Sometimes the best thing we can do is use the power of the written word to express our thanks. Get a thank you card or a piece of stationery, and write to express, or you use Messenger or whatever it may be. It's one of the most personal ways of expressing gratitude these days, especially since so few people actually take the time to write as much these days. Again, you can keep it simple by letting the person know that you appreciate them. You can hand deliver a letter, for example, or mail it, of course, as well, which will be a really lovely surprise for that person in between the stack of junk mail and bills. And potentially, give people gifts. When someone does something nice for you, a nice way to express your appreciation is to give a small thank you of some kind, thank you gift or present. It doesn't have to be anything costly or extravagant, just something that shows you, that shows them that you appreciate what they've done for you. You might buy someone a coffee. Or a gift certificate, or a chocolate bar even. It's the simple gesture that goes a long way. And consider returning the favour. If someone has done something nice for you, a simple way to show your appreciation is to return the favour by potentially giving some of your time. For instance, if someone has helped you during a time of need, or supported you, tell them, perhaps you want to take them for lunch, or for being such an instrumental person in your life, or just let them know that you appreciate that. It also gives you a chance to potentially talk and grow closer and develop further. William Arthur Ward once wrote, a feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. So tell others, in the presence of the person or people you wish to thank, share your gratitude with others. Public forms of gratitude are important because it shows just how much you appreciate and care for others also. And this will also help you, let go of any insecurities, jealousy, anger, because you're putting others first. And all obstacles and struggles and pain and setbacks are only as powerful as we let them be. Letting go of the bad, letting go of some of the negative stuff, it's just as important as focusing on the good. Dwell upon what can help you, achieve your potential, and think about discarding the rest. As much as you are able to, and as much as is good for you. Being constantly happy, it's not realistic, it's not practical. We need adversity. Our well-being is determined by the meaning that we give to situations. We can choose to feel happy based on actions we take. Pain and struggle, they're vital for growth and for mastery. The meaning that we apply to the pain is what really determines our happiness. If we can be thankful for the experiences and appreciate what's happening, we then are in control. We have control over our own personal happiness. So be thankful, tell others you appreciate them, process and deal with the negative, do those things, and you're going to develop gratitude and gradually find more happiness. So I mentioned self-gratitude earlier. Psychology research tends to suggest that gratitude plays an important part in our levels of satisfaction when applied to ourselves too. One of the authors of the I mentioned earlier, why are materialists less happy? That particular paper I mentioned earlier. James Roberts said that our ability to adapt to new situations helps to explain why more stuff doesn't necessarily make us any more happier. And I spoke about this idea of a hedonic treadmill. That we're treading on and never really arriving at anywhere. This treadmill of consumption, and there's a chasm that exists, that I spoke about earlier, between where we're at and where we want to be, and it blinds us to what it is that we truly have already. I'm going to repeat the Greek philosopher Epicurus quote, do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. And, I love that enough to suggest to so many people and to say it to so many people, and to spend some time being grateful for what we have. And it's been my experience that lots of people reflect upon their lives, upon periods of time, and will recall personal loss and trauma, for example. It's understandable. Many people also take it a step further and remind themselves of things that they did not do, or things they should have done, things they did not accomplish. And this is potentially problematic. It goes against the notion of expressing gratitude. You want to be realistic, don't just ignore the bad stuff, because it can be valuable learning, but also review and reflect using gratitude. Concentrate as well on what went right and what you did do well. Even if you're missing people that may not be in your life anymore, or you've not reduced those extra few pounds from your waistline, or you didn't earn your first $1 billion with the invention that you presented to the dragons in their den. These may not be valid reasons to reflect or to be upset in a negative fashion. Consider those that are no longer with us, and see if you can be grateful for the love that you shared with them, and the laughs that you had together. I would love my grandparents, for example, to have met my children. It really saddens me that they'll not get to do so. But I love remembering what I learned from them. And I'm grateful for the fact that I get to tell my kids stories about them. And I'm grateful for the parties I had in their homes and the laughs I had with them in the pub, the Christmases we enjoyed together, and so on. And they enriched my life greatly, as sad as it is that I feel that they're not around. It's a challenge to think about the things that you've already got. If you're distracted with wanting other things all of the time, it's difficult to think about the things you did do when you're so concentrating and focused on on the things that you didn't do. Be grateful for what you have and what you have done, because it's something that you can do any time to receive a huge amount of benefits. Many authors tend to believe that if you want more of something, then simply be grateful for the things that you already have. I don't necessarily want to reach that far even, simply use gratitude to advance your degree of satisfaction with your life. Because I think, that is being wealthy. One of the simplest ways to benefit from gratitude is to create ongoing, a developing list of all the things you have in your life. This can include stuff, if you want, a roof over your head, a means of transport, a favourite jacket, for example. But things do not have to be physical things, either. You can be thankful for the love you have in your life, relationships, friendships, the laughter that you have on any given day, as well as, the knowledge that you have, the things the feelings that you enjoy, and everything in between. A lot of modern, TV culture tends to have young people in particular yearning to be famous, yearning to have millions of pounds, to live the lifestyles of those that they see on telly, the rich and the famous. And this, creates that gulf I was speaking about earlier between that dream and where they currently are. Why not enjoy and be grateful for the entertainment that they provide instead? Be grateful for having the capacity to dream. It doesn't mean you stop reaching for more. Be grateful for the sunrise you saw when you drove to work early one morning. Be grateful for the colour of your hair if you have some. Be grateful for your current home, the dinner you enjoyed, and just about everything else you can think of. And then build your list, add to it regularly. If you want to be evidence-based about it, conduct your own research experiment. Express gratitude for a week and record your feelings, or any differences in your life, and then decide if the differences make it worthwhile for you to carry on doing it. Consider creating other lists, an accomplishments and achievements list. Write down all the things that you're proud of that you've done in your life, for example, that you can review and reflect upon on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be exclusively big things, like discovered the cure for the common cold. It can be experiences that you shared with family. Again, laughter that you shared, jokes you shared, times, you emptied your to-do list, or you felt mega productive, for example. When you've finished lists that you can review, one for accomplishments, one for all the things you have in your life to be grateful about, then, enjoy reading it back to yourself regularly. And create a culture of gratitude in your life. Be grateful for all of the things on those lists. Keep the list handy. Review it daily. Add it. Add to it. And get the gratitude perpetuating. Make it an integral part of your day to reflect with gratitude. Offer yourself some ongoing encouragement, some praise, some acceptance, and for sure it'll make you feel wealthier. Abandon the inherent materialism. That's it for today. Do subscribe to this channel. You'll receive all the notifications and updates of the latest videos. Go visit my college website for more information about our classroom-based and online courses on the topics of self-hypnosis and hypnotherapy and much more besides. I send you my very best wishes. Goodbye for now.